And we're back with another episode of Life-Changing Challengers. Again, I'm your host, Brad Minus, if you didn't already know that. And I'm extremely lucky and privileged to have Dan Storey on the show today. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing well, thanks, Brad. Yeah, it's a good day here in Prague. The sun's been out, the sun's been shining. Had a little day with the family, but excited to be having a conversation with you today.
Oh, and as I. So Dan is an author, 3-time author, a motivational speaker and a sales trainer, and he's got some amazing science behind it that will help you with any kind of transformation journey that you might have. And he deals with more on the scientific mindset side. So, but before we get into all that great stuff, Dan, please let us know, what was it like in your childhood? Where did you grow up? What was the complement of your family? And what was it like to be Dan as a kid?
I grew up in a city in England called Bristol. It's about 2 hours west of London. And a very good childhood. My parents, growing up, actually, they both divorced and went on to find partners that were far better suited for them. But luckily, me and my brother came along before that point. And then I spent actually my childhood growing up in the middle of the countryside. In fact, on a hill. I can't write this. It was on a hill. I went to a very small school. There are 47 people in the school, including teachers. In my class, there was 3 kids. And so you got to imagine this hill, and we'd have to walk to school. But this was back in the day, right, when there weren't any crazy people around that there are today. So my parents would just walk down this farm lane, say hello to the tractors, all those kind of things. And actually growing up, and we're going to talk about fitness today, I had quite a good fitness upbringing. My stepdad liked to run. He liked to play squash. He would run across the hills. I make it sound like I live on a prairie. I didn't. It was very close to the city. But as kids, we would cycle after him. So we'd do that. And as I grew up, that kind of fitness thing became part and part of growing up. I played soccer as a kid. I played cricket and learned all sorts of sports growing up. So fitness was a big part of it. But yeah, eventually we moved from Bristol to Gloucester. Then, won't go into it too much, but ended up just finding some passion for fitness and training in the gym from like 14, 15. This was back in the days before Instagram and all the kids were in the gym. Me and my brother thought we'd trying to lift these things around. And ended up going to university studying this idea of fitness. I wasn't good enough at the fitness side at the point, so I had to back it up with some academics. So I weirdly got a sports and maths background. It's in theory, I'm really good at counting press-ups, although I didn't. Yeah. But that was it really. And then I guess a few years later, I went back to study a little bit more about the science of sport. And a friend of mine said, hey, you should listen to this. At the time, he gave me a CD and it was about neuro-linguistic programming. He said, I think you might like this. And that one moment was the start of my, I guess, love affair with psychology and the understanding of the brain, knowing that we're going to push ourselves physically, but actually it's the brain and the mind and the wiring that we have internally that's going to define a lot of the success or non-success that we're going to get in life.
All right. Well, that's great, but we need to step back a little bit. You ran through that. I'd never had anybody run through that fast. So you got a brother.
Yep.
Older?
Younger. A year and a half. So we're quite close. Yeah.
Excellent. And when you played, you had sports, you mentioned soccer, which we know you actually called football. All right. Yeah.
Well, we'll come to that because I played football as well. My main sport when I got to university was football. I was quarterback for the university team. I ended up playing for Great Britain. I played in the States against Menlo College in San Francisco, played in Finland, and I played all the way up until about 4 or 5 years ago.
Wait a second. Wait.
Yeah.
I was always told, first of all, if you're in Great Britain, soccer is football.
Yep.
Football, right? But when did that change?
So
did that change in your lifetime?
Yeah, I know. There's still the community, right? So in England, football is football. Football's a round one. In fact, in about an hour's time, we're going to be competing for the European Cup, right? The England team. Okay. But there's also a big, passionate group of people that like gridiron or American football, or I would call that football. English people would call it American football. And I remember growing up actually watching it on TV. This was back in the days where Budweiser sponsored kind of the ball and stuff like that. And I remember watching games. I loved the kind of excitement and the passion and speed of American football, watching it as a kid. I got the plastic balls, we throw them around with kids in the street and stuff. And actually, there was a team in my hometown where I grew up. And as a kid, I think it was about 15, 16, I just started to go along and play with the ball and throw it around. And then when I got to university, there was a team there. And I was team captain, football, cricket, rugby and stuff at school. I did okay with sport. And then I got to university. I was like, what sport am I going to play? And there was this team saying, oh, do you want to come play American football? I thought, I've never tried it. Let's jump into it. And I loved it. What can I say? It was a sport I really enjoyed. I loved the psychology side of it. You're trying to outwit your opponent, but I love the physicality of it because it's high speed, it's high impact. Unless you're me and you play quarterback, which you try and avoid all of that. And you try and stay in the kind of cognitive and thinking space. But yeah, it was fun.
In the pocket. Yeah. So that's really interesting because, I'm a little bit older than you, and I had never thought that. I had no clue that in England they were actually playing American football. That's incredible. Now, it's interesting because the NFL now is like putting one game in England.
We've got a few a year now. There's typically about 3 regular season games in the UK. I think they've got some in Germany. They're trying to push them into Mexico as well. So it's and every game sells out. Like I've been to Wembley, I've seen it at Twickenham, it's packed. And I think the English crowd is starting to appreciate it more. I think back when I was playing, it was, this is crazy. What do you just play rugby? Take the pads off. Now everyone sees the athleticism because these guys on the pitch, professional football, American footballers, they're the best athletes in the world, strongest, fastest, and they're going against the other guy who's the second hardest, and it's rocking a hard place. It's one of those kind of things. So I think it is growing in popularity. People love to see it. Will we ever get a franchise in the UK? I don't think so, but it's nice to dream.
It's just so interesting that you say that because we all think that in America we're like, no, football is actually slow because it's play, stop, huddle, figure it out. Talk to the coach, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now another 11-second play. Okay, let's go. Let's stop, huddle, again. So we all think it's slow, and we think soccer's fast because it's 90 minutes of it doesn't stop. It's back and forth, except you only stop for timeouts and to throw in the ball.
Yeah.
And
it's a different type of speed, right? I mean, you ask my wife, which is better. She doesn't like soccer anyway, but she's come to watch me play games, and it's boring, especially the amateur game in England. It is very slow. But I think the moments of game, like when you're actually playing, it's 6 seconds of just let's go as hard and as fast as we can. I love rugby. I think the rugby game is amazing. But rugby, you're always looking there, right? It's always just in front of you. You can predict what's going to happen. And if you see someone coming, you tend to slow down or do whatever you protect. In football, it's all angles. You've got to keep your head on a swivel sort of thing. And it's also, here's one thing I do like, it's a perfection. There's an element of perfection to it that you need to have. The execution of football is different to every other sport. Like as a quarterback, you throw the ball, it's got to be in exactly the right spot. Your wide receiver might make a play, but it's got to be there. In football, you make a pass, it doesn't matter, right? It's gone, someone runs after it, I'll get another go in a second. It's not like that. So it's that pressure element with athleticism, plus the outthinking the opponent. I don't know, it's a unique combination.
I've never heard it explained that way. And I think you're absolutely 100% correct. I love watching football just as much as the next guy. And, just to give you this one. So I'm from Chicago, right? And I live in Tampa. Not the last time, the time before that we only get a matchup between Chicago and Tampa every 4 years. And it was going to be here at Tampa. Tampa was going to be the home team. I'm like, getting ready to, I'm going to buy tickets. I'm going to go. And that was the year they did it in England. Sorry about it.
Next time, hit me up.
I was like,
Christ.
because they only play every 4 years, and then it's opposite. So I really preferred them to come to Tampa. It's every 8 years was when I get to see it. So that was a little bit, but that's fine. So you played football in college. Was that now that's usually a one-season sport, at least here in college. Did you play anything else while you're out there?
It's a winter sport, and what I do the rest of the time. No, I think that was pretty much it. That was my main sport.
All right.
Yeah. Just take it easy in the summer.
So where did you move to where did you end up residing when you got out of school?
I went home for a bit. I went to work at a gym. I got my degree and I went back into fitness and started. I thought, this scientific knowledge about how the body works. And so I'll go and work in the gym. And first person I got to speak to with this little old lady, she was like 74 years old and wanted to know how to use the treadmill. I'm like, you don't want to know about muscle contraction and all the energetic pathways? No, she did not. And that's what inspired me to go back to school and back to university, did my master's in physiology, was I wanted to work with athletes. Like I love competition. I like peak performance level. So I do love the gym. I think there was a lot of people will go there, and yeah, it's a great place for people to start the journey. I also like to challenge myself and see, okay, well, how can we push the top end of the envelope as well? But I never made it. I never actually got to work with athletes because I fell into this psychology thing. And then turns out that a whole bunch of people in business need psychology as well. So that kicked off. You mentioned about the sales training, going and teaching salespeople and sales leaders how to get in the right headspace to influence people and how other people think and how we can influence that thought as well.
Where was that? So tell me about that transition. So you went to school, you were doing physiology, someone gives you an NLP book, and then where was the transition there to go into sales?
So I love the NLP, and I thought, right, I'm going to go and study this. And because, I don't know, I haven't grown out of it yet. So if it's a phase, I don't know. But it's a long phase of being a student for life. So I thought, right, here's a great idea. I want to go and study it some more. So I went to this school and enrolled in the NLP practitioner and master practitioner course. Got on with the guys there, and they were teaching open courses. People go and learn this kind of more of a coachy type, therapeutic-y style NLP. And then they got this contract for teaching it to business people. And the guys who I studied with is a genius, absolutely amazing guy. But you should not put him in a boardroom. And he knew that. He knew his limitation. And so he said, Dan, do you want to go and teach this stuff to these people over there? They're graduates. They're coming into their first sales role. Let's go and teach them some NLP. And so I thought, why not? Let's try it. Let's go do it. So did it. Spent, I think it was 3 days at his house getting downloaded. It's like the Matrix. Basically, plugging it's like NLP. Went and taught these kids. I say kids. It was barely just in front of them. And it was a 2-week NLP sales training course. And I sucked. It was the worst training I've ever given. But, you learn and you get better over time. And what I quickly realized is that salespeople don't want to learn NLP. They don't want to learn neuro-linguistic programming. They want to learn how to sell. And the techniques from NLP are very helpful for salespeople. And so I guess over the next few years, I was trying to say, well, how can we teach sales? How do I learn the language of sales? How do I embed these ideas so they can talk to them in their language and not just sound like some kind of crazy advocate for some psychology thing at the front? We had a lot of fun. We trained a whole bunch of amazing salespeople. I still see them. I bump into them. They hit me up on LinkedIn. They say, some of them are running their own companies now. Some of them have been on The Apprentice and they've done extremely well and won that. And they've grown their own companies. They're heads of sales at companies now. So I've got some pretty good students in my alumni. I'm not going to take the credit, but at least I was part of the journey and gave them some like impetus or education that they appreciate, I think.
Yeah, I think us as coaches, and I get that too. I'm like, hey, you know what? I got my PR because of you. And I'm like, no, you didn't get it because of me. You did it because of you. Let me ask you a question. Who did all the work? She goes, well, you guided me. Yeah, guided. You put in all the work. You ran all those miles. You swam all those miles. You biked all those miles. You're the one that did it all. I just gave you an idea of how to get there. So, and motivated you. That's it. So this is all on you. So I love the way you said that. That was perfect. So, you know what? I think this is a good segue. Can you define NLP as well, as roughly as you can? Let's say 30,000 foot view. Cool.
So NLP, I think, is a language to explain what's going on in people's heads as they do certain things. So it's a technology or a set of tools that were designed by a couple of guys. One was a linguist, one was a computer programmer. And they said, let's look at excellence in therapy and coaching in this kind of world of like people manipulating people's brains. And let's see what we can figure out. And let's give it some kind of structure. So they would look at hypnotists. And at the time, you were a hypnotist and you could hypnotize people, but nobody really understood how. And so they looked at it and said, okay, well, we can break it down. It's these processes, and we're going to give it a language so that we can teach other people. Or they would look at people building rapport, right? Who's really good at building rapport? Okay, well, what is it they're doing? How are they using their body? How are they using language? How are they using tonality? All those kind of things. How are they doing that? Okay, great. Now we know it. We can go and teach it. And so I guess it was the element of codifying or giving a language to something that was previously a bit fluffy and now could be replicated in multiple different contexts. So I think that's probably what NLP is. It's a language that you can use to explain kind of psychological processes that are going on in a way that is fairly easy to understand.
Excellent. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming.
Yep. So think about you're doing some programming, and you got two aspects. You got the brain, and you got your words, and trying to figure out how people are wired and change your wiring as a result.
Yeah, that totally makes sense for sales. Neuro-linguistic programming in a way to speak to the person in order to entice, well, for lack of a better term, manipulate.
I like that word. That's a good word.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they basically what it is. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a quick example. This is what I learned. So I did some sales training myself. So this is what I was always taught. One of the greatest things, they talk about leading questions, right? So if I ask you, Dan, I'm like, Dan, so right now you're in Prague, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Where's some of the places that you love to vacation?
We just went to the Greek islands. Very nice. We're going to New York, or we're moving to New York. So I had a vacation in New York. Anywhere with sunshine. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So if I was standing next to you, I'd be telling you, hey, I'm going to prove to you that you're not here. Okay? All right. So you love going to New York. It's one of the places you'd like to go to, and you're going to move there, but you're not there right now, right?
No, not yet.
Right. So, and you like going to the Greek islands, but you're not there yet either.
Correct.
Right. And then what was the third one? San Francisco?
Anywhere with sunshine. So yeah, we'll go
anywhere.
I was in California last year, so let's go to
California. And you're not there, right?
Yep.
So if you're not in New York, Greece, or California, then you got to be someplace else, right?
Yep.
Well, if you're someplace else, how can you be here?
Oh. Logic.
Right. Yeah. So there you go. I could prove people they aren't here. So anyway, leading programming, but that kind of like almost dictates what you were talking about.
Yeah. There's so many great applications of it. And the reason I like sales is because it's one of those ones you can apply pretty immediately. You can go into the next conversation you have and you can try a technique like that, right? Different types of questioning and get people to think differently. So I think it's really interesting. But I also like with salespeople, there's so many limitations to performance in sales. And we'll come into this in terms of the fitness side as well. But, if you're a sales, if you've been sales, let's say you've got to make a phone call, right? What happens as you're approaching the phone? Do we still have physical phones? I don't know. So it's all
it doesn't matter whether you're using a cell phone or whether you're using that, but yeah.
There's that period of like, I've got to make a call. And what happens, right? Your heart rate starts going up. Your mind starts talking to you. And it's, hey, what if they don't like you? Or what if they say something mean or something like that? And the impact on performance is crazy, right? And sometimes it completely stops performance. Don't do anything. And that's just 3 seconds, right? Of looking at the phone and going, now imagine that over a career. Imagine if we could wipe that out. Imagine if we could get people to actually enjoy that part. So I think there's loads of cool applications in sales, and I've tried to escape. I've tried to go into the sports side, but sales just keeps pulling me back, and I like the challenge. It's fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how long? So you're still doing sales training right now, right?
Still, yeah. Still spending a lot of time with sales people. I'm now moving into this whole mental toughness space as well. So I love the NLP. I love the persuasion side. It's become less overt and more just a complete part of what I do. Is I add aspects of psychology into training. So I did a master's degree in behavioral science, and if you think about all the thinking fast and slow books and all those kind of things, is how to if you're trying to influence someone, you've got to understand how they make decisions, right? Because you put those two together, it's pretty powerful. So I kind of studied that. And then sales is tough. Sales is getting tougher. And one of the things that I've seen over the last few years is just the corporate world just beating sales. It's beating everyone down, but it's beating salespeople a lot as the expectations are going up. The pressure is coming down on them as well. And so there's a resilience piece in there. There's a stick-to-itiveness. There's a kind of grit and perseverance piece that I think salespeople need some support with. The money's great and it helps, make things a little bit easier. But I think people need a little bit more than money now. So helping them keep their head straight while they're under pressure is something that I've been working on with them as well.
I can imagine that is a tool that most salespeople need right now. And I can understand it because you've got everything at your disposal. Back in my day, 80s, 90s, that area, you walked into someone's house to try to sell them something. The information they got was from you.
Yeah.
And if you could get them now, it's like someone says, well, this will do this for you and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, let me 1 second. Let's go to the Google box.
Yeah. They literally like that. Hold on, what did you just say?
Yeah, right. So you've got to take that into consideration, which I think is incredible. So when you were teaching sales using NLP this first time, you said that you didn't do well the first time, but you got better. Were you working for somebody? Were you working for a company that was having this program?
The school that I was studying the NLP with, they got a contract or referral and all those kind of things. And it was their contract. So I actually worked with them for a year delivering this. It was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And I would literally go to south of England and I'd stay in a little B&B and just hang out there and teach for 2 weeks, NLP and sales and these principles. And then we'd have 2 weeks off. And it was working. The contract was with a recruitment company. So they'd have an intake. They'd start them there, train them for 2 weeks, then send them off into their first role in IT sales. Go and sell IT solutions of all sorts of weird and wonderful contraptions. I still don't understand what IT is, but I help people sell it.
Okay, well, that's my day job. So, and then how long did you end up? So that was a contract, and how long did you end up doing that?
That was, I think, about a year. The contract was, and then I negotiated. We carried on the contract, but they didn't want to pay the company, so I worked with them directly. I maintained the relationship with the other company, so everything was fine. And then did that, and then went into. I've stayed in sales training ever since. I've had my own business. I've worked in jobs. I've had my business. I've gone in. I've had a few very cool jobs over time where I've got to teach sales, and that'd be like a full-time thing. And then, but then I get itchy. I'm like, I need to do something myself or something a bit bigger. And I get these entrepreneurial dreams, and I do it for a bit, and then I'm like, get stuck in that whole owner-operator mode. So then take a role, but only if something cool comes up. I like to hang out with cool people. People are going to challenge me. Get to do some amazing things. Change the world a little bit, disrupt stuff, that kind of thing.
I get it. For 22 years, I was an IT contractor. So basically, I would be on a contract anywhere from 3 months to 3 years. And then I'd move. And something else, all brand new technology, brand new ways of doing things, totally new project management software and things like that, because that's what an IT project manager. So I get that. And that's the reason why I stayed. Everybody was like, well, you should go do W-2 stuff, which I am now, but that's a different story. But yeah, I get that. I totally get it. Then you get itchy, you want to do something else. And so, yeah, I completely understand it. You and I seem to be on the same wavelength there as far as type A personality. It's like, okay, all right, now I'm bored. Time to move on. So, but something happened, turned 40, I guess something happened. What, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I guess COVID happened, but just before that, we had a baby daughter. So I'm married now. It's 8 years from last week. So we had a little baby girl come around just before COVID. In fact, literally the day that COVID got announced, we were just going to pay the nursery fees, and then they went, oh, we're closed. So I was like, I'll take that money back because they were doing refunds. And yeah, so life changed. Like I said, I was playing football, amateur football in the UK up until then. Me and the guys would meet every Sunday. We'd do a training session during the week, and we played every Sunday, and literally COVID hit. It's like, bam. And games stopped. Like, you couldn't play. Couldn't hang out. You weren't, in England, you weren't like more than 6 people together at a particular time. I can't remember what the rules were, but they were elaborate and not conducive to sport. But also, I had a little baby girl now, and so life changed. And I love it. There's something happened. I was 40 when we had Lily, and I still don't feel like I'm a grown-up. I don't know about you, but it's one of those things. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm not like Peter Pan, but I still feel vastly inappropriately prepared for the rest of my life. But now you got this kid, and you're like, oh my God, you're going to look after them. So immediately fell in love with her, and like life changes. If you've had a kid, then I think you understand that kind of immediate shift. So previously, my life was very selfish. I would spend my entire weekends playing football, thinking about football, preparing for football, taking the wife along. She would watch football, and that was the kind of wives' club on the sidelines. Like, what are they doing out there being idiots? And so Lily came along. It was off season anyway. And so I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to challenge myself with? And because I needed to have the competition, like you said, there's something you've got to do. For me, football was a really good fitness thing, but it was the mental battle, it was the challenge, it's the competitiveness, it was all those elements, it was the camaraderie. And with that gone, I needed something else to channel myself into. COVID, all the gym shut. So really all you could do is go outside when you're allowed and run. So I thought, hey, you know what? I'm going to be an Ironman athlete. I tried to do it a few years back and I'd got injured. So I'd actually developed metatarsalgia. So I'd bruised the bone on my foot there underneath the second toe. I had to, this was 4 weeks out from half Ironman in Austria. And so I couldn't do it. I was so annoyed because I've been training, I've been running, I've been doing all this stuff. And then we actually had the holiday booked, so we went to Austria to see the course. And I remember being at the course and going, oh, just the ultimate disappointment of watching other people do the race that you prepared for. That punched me in the face, like real hard. That, and I'd also invited my family and my wife's family to come and cheer me on. So we were all there, and it didn't happen. But we had a great time in Austria, so that was fun. So I thought, I'm gonna get revenge. Like, it's coming back.
Vindication.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I've been there. I've been there. Yeah. I just I want you to stop.
Yeah.
Quick. I was getting ready to do, it was going to be my 6th time doing Ironman Chattanooga 70.3. Love the course. Was so excited. And we're leaving on Friday. Thursday, we go out and we're doing just a quick little tune-up bike. And I crash. Leaving on Friday. So of course, my training buddy, she says, well, you should just come out and we'll go and you can cheer us on and stuff. I'm like, nope. That will hurt. That will hurt a lot harder. So I get it. I totally get it. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
I got a chance for revenge. So yeah. So we did some running in London. We actually, during COVID, we moved over here to Prague for a bit. And over here is just living at the edge of the city. So I've got woods and fields and stuff. So I could go running and do that kind of thing. And I've always had tight calf muscles. There's always been a thing ever since I was playing a kid. I was playing soccer. I'll get calf cramp, and that's been the challenge I've had. It's even just stretching, all manipulation, all the kind of stuff. I always get calf cramp, and so actually endurance racing or endurance running. I'm not going to say racing because that would imply competitiveness, which I'm definitely not. But competing and challenging yourself to go to distance, that's a big worry for me. Is that for some reason it doesn't need to be anything, but it just goes boop. And then my calf goes. And it could be after 2 minutes, could be after 2 hours. So I'd be careful, right? And we moved back, Prague, moved back to England and got close. And I was living in Cheltenham, actually, just again, west. And I was running for 2.5 hours over the hills and have the packs every weekend. And I loved it, right? I actually really enjoyed going for a run in the countryside. And then had the race booked. It was this half Ironman in near Oxford. And 2 weeks out, I pulled my calf. And I'm like, oh, man, don't do this to me. Like, literally, and I'm like hobbling. And you know it's gonna get okay by the race, but you can't push on it. And so I ended up getting to the race. And I learned a few things about myself at the race. Number one is I don't like cold water, but the good news was it was early in the season, they actually cancelled the swim because the Thames was too cold. And it was like, this is going to be crazy. So I was like, yes. But we're going to add on 5 extra K of running. I'm like, no, because I'm going to happen. So I actually got the race photo of me, and I look like I'm exhausted. It's actually in the opening straight. The race, I look terrible on my face. And then I did the bike, and the bike had 3 loops of this course, and there was a massive hill. And I realized I do not like climbing hills. I managed to get to the top of it. Coming down the other side, I was on the brakes, and these people are going past me so fast. I like the skin on my body. I'm not brave enough to be on the bike. That's the thing. I'm also not good at refueling, which is one thing I noticed. I didn't drink very much or eat on. So I got to the run, I'm like dead. Nothing left in my legs. Now I've got 20K with empty legs, a calf muscle that's about that far away. And I have my phone with me, and I just jogged, walk. And I'll call people on the way. I'm like, hey, just keep company for me. It's the worst triathlete ever. It's for a period of maybe a few K. I was running along with this 60-year-old woman, and we were just chatting. She's like, oh, yeah, what are you doing? And all that, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, how long have you been training for this? She said, oh, I'm not really trained. I just turned up. And that's heartbreaking, right? You're like, I've trained really hard for it, and this 60-year-old lady's coming in. She says, see, bye. It just runs off into the distance. And I get to the end of the race. I finish in the loop. You can see the people helping out what do they call the marshal. Yeah. Oh, here's this guy again. Like, have you not finished yet? I'm like, nope, one more lap. They're trying to figure out when they're going to go home. Anyway, I eventually pull into the final of the race. Transition is down. Like, there's a few fences, there's 3 bikes left. They're like, pick your own medal up off the table. But I finished it, right? It was that kind of thing. But I realized at the time, I'm like, I need something else that is not endurance. It's not, like, I love it, but my body does not adapt well to it. And I've always trained in the gym. I've always lifted to help me with sport. I really enjoyed throwing some heavy weights around and stuff. Not that they're that heavy, but I really enjoyed the gym. And it got to this point where I'm like, okay, I need something to challenge me. And maybe this is it. Maybe it's bodybuilding. And my brother, who's also my coach now, he'd been a bodybuilder younger. And I said to him, hey, I'm thinking about this thing. Like, I'm thinking that I might try bodybuilding as my next challenge. Like, what do you think? And he said, don't do it. So it's been there, it's horrible, we just go through all this pain, it's just an absolute mental battlefield, it's flagellation, it's all those things, you've got to put in so much stuff. Don't do it. But if you want to do it, then here's how we're going to do it. And yeah, so I looked into it. Now he wasn't natural, he's taken some kind of chemical enhancements in the past, but I wanted to do it naturally. Never taken any performance enhancing drugs or anything, so I wanted to do that challenge. I'm masters, so I'm over 40, 44 now, which means there's not a huge amount of naturally available testosterone running around the body, so I'm never going to get massive. And also bodybuilding's evolved now, so you don't just have these giant monsters, you have 3 classifications. You have open, you have classic physique, then you have this physique, which is supposed to look natural and be like beach body fit. I can tell you from trying to pose like that, it's nothing natural about it. But I went for that classification, so I'm technically now a master's physique athlete bodybuilder.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then did you end up winning, right? Didn't you end up winning that one?
I won one tournament, I won one competition, a couple of second places. I made it to the UK national finals or the international finals in my first year of competing. So I've done all right. A couple of seconds. Yeah.
All right. So everybody and if I can think of it, well, I'm definitely going to use this picture, but if you go onto Dan's website, danstorey.com, and go to the about section, you'll see a picture of him in one of his competitions.
Yep.
And they get to pose in board shorts.
I get to wear board.
They don't have to wear the little things, the little banana hammocks.
Yeah, that would not be pleasant for anyone if I was wearing those shorts.
I don't know.
I'll tell you some stories in a minute of all the kind of crazy stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but yeah, I'll save it to shorts.
Well, I know, and I know. No, I'm not even going to say that, but I don't know. I think you might be underestimating yourself because I'm just looking at your legs and your arms. I mean, he's cut. It's symmetrical. He looks good. So you guys got to see this. I will post this one out there in the show notes, just so you can see what he did, because it's pretty amazing. And you said we were 41 at the time, 40.
I think that one, I'm 42, maybe 43.
Oh, 42. Yeah. You guys all got to see this. So definitely. But that's amazing. That's amazing. So, all right. So your brother said, okay, well, this is going to be horrible, but if you want to do it, what did you learn about yourself while you were in the gym? And I'm going to assume that you went a little bit harder, a little bit more strategic than you did when you were doing it for fitness and for football.
Yep. So let's go back a little bit. The reason I set this goal for myself was, I guess after the running and the kind of Ironman, I lost a bit of challenge and you lose a bit of focus, right? There's nothing to train for. And we went down to the beach in England. It's not really a beach. It's like some fake sand that people have probably imported from somewhere nice. But it was a hot day and we're there and I was with the family and someone took a photo of my mum or something. It was just me. I just looked very, I say average. Like, okay, some musculature, but there was no definition. And I looked at it and I don't know, for some reason that kind of tipped me off. I'm like, that looks like a whole bunch of excuses. And I don't know, it was just something that got to me. It's like, you talk about challenging yourself, you talk about being at your best, and yet this is what you look like. And I know something just kicked in, and that was what the challenge was. So then I spoke to my brother and said, look, thinking about being a bodybuilder. And he said, all right, here's what you got to expect. And we talked a little bit about it. And the gym that I was at, the owner of the gym and the trainer there, he's a former Mr. Olympia, competitor from like the 90s, a guy called Lee Powell. Very cool guy, but he competed back in the day. And so I had a couple of conversations on what's it going to be like. And he said there's two really hard points. Is the point where you start, like the first 3 weeks of your competition prep, and then there's the last 3 weeks. So the first 3 weeks is you've got to make that adjustment from, hey, this is me as a normal person, to this is me as this crazy, obsessed bodybuilder. And I use the word obsessed because it looks like an obsession to outsiders, like it can do, especially with the food and all of the kind of preparation aspects that go into it. And then at the end, it's just, that's all you can think about, to the point where no holidays, no change of routine. It's just purely like, don't do anything different because your body's just going to go. So there was a question mark before I started, because we were talking about one of your clients, about her. She dropped like half her body weight. It's crazy. So for years, I've had this goal of being under 10% body fat. I wrote it down, like 2016 under 10%, or 2017 under, and it never happened. It never materialized. Like I'd get close, but then I'd not measure it, and there was no enjoyment factor to that. So it was a different goal, right? It's going to be step on stage and challenge yourself to be a physique bodybuilder. You're going to have to get below 10%. You're going to have to get way below 10%. I don't know where I was at the end. I had zero clue. What did I learn about myself? So the first part was, the question mark was around discipline. Did I have the discipline? I knew I could train. Like I knew I could lift weights and I could do all the kind of like the things that I need to do in the gym. But did I have the discipline? That was a good question. Was because I hadn't done anything significant for a while. Like I would do things, I would show up and I would do my best at that moment. But discipline is different, right? Motivation comes and goes. It's like in waves. Oh, I feel great today. I'm going to go to the gym. And discipline says, I don't care if you're motivated. You're going to the gym. And I remember seeing a Kobe Bryant video. He talks about discipline. And he says, my training routine was set at the beginning of the season. Like, this is my training routine. This is what I've agreed to. And I signed. It's like, this is it. I'm not negotiating myself later on. And it's that kind of mindset. It's like, do I want to go to the gym? And a lot of people go, well, you've had a long day and tired, or this is happening. So many excuses come up. And discipline says, I don't care about your excuses. You're going to go and do it. And if you need to move stuff around, find a way, then find a way. But that was the challenge. So for me, discipline was a fun one. And I think discipline applies in so many areas. It applied in the gym. And I remember, I even took little videos of this. This is a weird thing. I was like, I'll use these one day. Never used it. I videoed my feet walking along the gym to the gym every morning. Like I could walk to the gym. It was very close. And I'd put videos of my feet on, it was dark, because I train in the morning. I'd wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'd go to the gym before like family were up. And I wake up at 4 a.m. because that's how our routine fits. So I have to wake up at 4. If I want to do it, so I have to sacrifice that sleep aspect. But discipline was one. Discipline was a big one. Now, it turns out discipline is actually quite easy to develop. You just go and do it. But getting over that excuse mentality and what if, that's the hard part. And I don't know, for me, if I go in the evening, if I try and train in the evening, that voice gets seriously loud. It's like, come home, we finish work. You're like, hey, why don't you just have a coffee? Or, hey, have a glass of wine. Like, you know that glass of wine.
Yeah. Where's
that voice come from all the time? So now I find if I wake up in the morning, just get out of the way, I can go home and I can do all those kind of crazy things.
Yep.
You can't get me, I'm untouchable. So that was the thing.
Still like that. Like that. I still wake up at 4 a.m. and I get my workout out in the morning, no matter what. I've got lights on the bike. If I've got a bike workout, I got lights. I'm like, nope, I got to get it done in the morning, because you're absolutely right. After a full days of work, then you come home and you're like, you just don't want to do it.
But for me, the gym's the easy part. The gym's the easy part.
The gym's the easy part.
Yeah.
Okay.
The kitchen is where it all happens. And I love the kitchen. I love cooking. I love food. I love chocolate. I love so many foods. It's so bad. I obviously have a little girl, and I have daddy duty, which is basically eat everything that's left on her plate. So just go away, that kind of thing. Now, every Friday we go to the cake shop after school. So we take it there, and there's like cakes. Also, so good. So the question is discipline with food, because that's the biggest part, right? And it's not difficult science. It's you need to have, if you're going to lose weight, it's fewer calories in than go out. Okay? And you do that by either reducing calories or increasing output. There's only two ways. Very simplistic. But that means you've got to cut back. And my wife would always look at me and say, oh, you eat a lot. I'm like, do I? This is back beforehand. And I got some scales and I started weighing food. And I dieted for my first shot about 14 months. And I think every meal I weighed. Almost every meal I weighed. And I'd like 30 grams of oats. I was 32 grams. I'll put a few oats back. It was obsessed. Again, obsessive. My wife, we didn't eat the same food for most meals. But I learned what a portion was. And that was really interesting. Is I was overeating on every meal. And again, you only have to overeat a little bit and just gradually increase your weight. And that was what was happening. And so actually changing the discipline around food was not necessarily about cooking it differently. Yeah, I turned to leaner foods. I introduced a few more vegetables and stuff. It wasn't a problem, but it was portion size. That was the really interesting thing. So measuring food, cooking food, and trying to be interesting in the way I cook food without trying to feel like I missed out too much, because family meal time is really interesting and like happy, and it's a good place for us all to bond. So I try and cook 2 meals or something at the same time, one for them, one for me, and still eat at the same time. So that was the hard part. That was one of the hardest parts of discipline for me, was the kitchen.
So you reminded me of a quote from none other than Mike Tyson. Discipline is doing what you hate to do, but do it like you love it.
Yep.
So that's both things, right? That's both things. All right, so you go to the gym, and if you don't want to do it that day, you just go in there and you act like you want to do it that day.
Yep.
It's almost like fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah,
if you're cooking for your family and you got to cook something yourself that's leaner, less calories, you do it like you love it. No, I love cooking for you, and I love cooking for me. Yeah. No matter how bland or how much smaller it is than yours.
It's like, here's your pizza, and here's my boiled broccoli and some tuna, which is dry as heck. And I'm like, no, you guys carry on.
Oh, no, I loved it. This is great. Yep. This is fantastic. Yep. Were you able to incorporate any NLP while you were did you go back into your NLP brain to help you out with this challenge? And what did you do?
So I think the biggest one is, for me, as imagery and visualization. I had to see myself as something different to who I was. So anytime you set a big goal, if I imagine myself as a bodybuilder, my immediate reaction is, yeah, but you're not either. You haven't even been on stage yet. Now I can relax and say a little bit more comfortably. But before that first instance of stepping on stage, there was massive imposter syndrome. And I had to keep visualizing this. And I had this metaphor in my head of, I call myself a motivational athlete. And so I use the athleticism, I use the physical challenge of bodybuilding to motivate and help people understand their their own mindset better. That's for me. And so one of the things that I would do is hold that in my head. I was like, right, what would a motivational athlete do? What would I do? And so I'd act as if, or visualize that kind of, I call it an avatar or archetype. How would that person act? And many times when I didn't want to do things, I had to think about that and visualize that person and who that person was going to be. I did things like vision boarding at the beginning. I went onto the internet and I looked at all of these physiques that I admire. And I remember creating a little digital vision board and had that on my screen. And I'd look at it a couple times a day and all those kind of nerdy things. But visualization works because you've got to close that gap between your old identity and your new identity. And if you look at how we're wired, and we talked a little bit about this, it's like mental shortcuts, right? Mental shortcuts. So our brain is very good at becoming efficient. If you ask it to do something over and over again, it's like, yep, and I'm going to find the easiest way to do this. If you think about it, you're a cyclist, right? So if you think about cycling, you have your cadence and you have your bike position. And if you get into that position, that cadence, you can go forever. But if I drop the saddle by 2 inches or ask you to increase the cadence by 10 BPM, what happens? All of a sudden, it's like, doesn't feel right and I don't like it, and now I have to work harder. We have to, because we lose efficiency. We become very efficient. And this is the same with the brain. So if you think about how many years you've been doing something and then you try and set this goal to do something else, you're fighting against all of that wiring. And so you've got to expect there's going to be some fight back. It's going to try and drag you down, excuses and worry and doubt and insecurity and all those kind of things. And I remember actually, I did a sales presentation. It was at a conference, and this is before I'd done my first show. I was, my name is Dan. Here's this book that I've written, and blah, 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 and here's why I'm so great. You know, those weird moments where you have to introduce yourself. It always feels weird. Thank you for introducing me so well. And I said, and I'm a bodybuilder as well. And I put this training photo up, and I was cringing. My voice was like, "You're not a bodybuilder. You're not." Like, you got to go through it. You got to go through that whole imposter syndrome thing if you're ever going to get to the other side. There's a million reasons why you should doubt yourself. Just got to keep persisting through it. And to think that other people don't have that insecurity and doubt is crazy. Yeah,
I get it. Before I started coaching, I had done one Olympic, I had done one half Ironman, and I was getting ready to do my first Ironman. And in between was the Chicago Marathon. And I had a team, and we were all raising money for the Polycystic Kidney Disease Foundation. So I had 20 people that were going with me. And there's this one woman, she was 53, and she had just done the France marathon or Nice or something, and she did it in 5 hours and 25 minutes. But I wasn't going to be racing this marathon because 3 weeks later I'm doing Ironman. Yeah. So I already decided that, no, I'm going to take it easy. I'm just going to let my legs do what they're going to do and blah, blah, blah. So I took this woman, her name was Karen. She's 53 years old. And I said, Karen, I says, you're with me. We're going to have a strategy, and we're going to get through it together, because I think you've got more than what you know you've got or what you think you have. So we ran the whole thing, and she had a little bit of the discomfort, but I'll never forget. It was 24 miles. She goes, okay, now my knees are starting to feel bad. And I'm like, yeah, you're at 24 miles, but you can do anything for 2.2 miles. And she goes, hell yeah. And I'm like, that's what I want to hear. So we crossed arm in arm at 4:32.
Wow. That's awesome.
50 minutes. So she's all crazy, and she's going crazy. And her friend comes up to me and she goes, you know what? She is on cloud 9. I think you should coach. And I'm like, but I don't have any credits. I got a couple of marathons and a couple of this and that. And she goes, but next month you will. And yeah, and that was the starting of it. But it was the same thing. But that's the first thing I thought of. I don't have any credits. What could I possibly give to people? And that was imposter syndrome. It's the absolute epitome of imposter syndrome. Yep. And so right after I got done with the Ironman, I got through the Ironman blues. We can talk about that. I just started talking to people about coaching. I never I didn't put a website up. I just said, hey, you know what? If you want me to help, I can help. Before you knew it, I had 2 running stores that I was running clinics out of. And then those came into, oh, I love what you're doing. Do you do private? Can you help me train for this race? And then it just, from there, it just came out. But yeah, absolute epitome of imposter syndrome. But if you've gone out and you've done the research, you've experienced it at least half a dozen times, something, and you've got something to show for it, and you feel like you've got a good amount of knowledge, you're going to continue to grow, right? But you can't let that imposter syndrome keep you from something that you really want to do. If you really want to coach, if you really want to write a book, if you really want to do something, you can't let that imposter syndrome, that feeling like you're inadequate, keep you from doing it. So yeah, I admire you on that point. And that was great.
I've looked into imposter syndrome quite a lot since. And the science says there's about 70% of people will experience imposter syndrome, especially in a kind of business space or something like that, where work is the biggest place for imposter syndrome. Or we think we're going to get found out or something along those lines. But it's interesting. It's a really interesting topic. And for me, it was one of those moments. And actually, I remember it was I think it must have been a morning, but I was in the bathroom and I got stepping on the scales and all this thing. And you have to do the daily weigh-in stuff. Daily weigh is horrible. I'd like to do a weekly one, but then you're scared to get on it. And I remember doing my weigh-in, and I caught a glimpse of myself, because you try and take as many clothes off as possible to influence the scales.
Yeah.
And I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror, and I remember it was the first time I saw myself as a bodybuilder. I'm like, holy, who's that guy? And there was a visual recognition of the work that I'd put in. That was a cool reinforcement moment. Is that one point where you're like, oh, okay, oh, maybe it's going the way it wants to go. And there are going to be moments along the journey like that remind you that it's going to be okay. But there's going to be a lot of times when it feels like a long way away. And you just got to keep putting in the work, Like right now, it's mid-July. My next show is end of September. That's a tentative, right? That's 9 weeks away. I'm a long way away from where I want to be, but in 9 weeks, I can do a whole bunch of stuff in terms of diet. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people try and do, is they try and do everything immediately and they don't spread it out over time.
Right. We have the entitlement.
Yeah.
Kind of this
Amazon
mindset.
It's like,
gratification, this gratification that we want. And so there's a lot of people out there, if they don't see results right away, they're like, good is it?
Yeah.
I see that.
I was talking about this earlier, right? So here's a really interesting, I think it's interesting. So I put this in my book, we'll talk about that a bit, but the idea of child genius is flawed. So we all think child genius, we think people like Mozart, Picasso, and those kind of people who just, Picasso was born with a paintbrush and was able to paint these amazing things, or Mozart fell out and just was able to play the harpsichord or whatever it was. And actually what you look at, their history is from a very early age. Like Mozart was a kid, he was like 2 years old, and he had a sister who was a couple of years older than him. She had harpsichord lessons that was learning, and his dad was a musician, right? And so he grew up in this musical family, watching his sister have these lessons, and so very naturally grew into it, and then had access to all of these amazing teachers and trainers, and like the dad was a little bit like pushing on him. Same with Picasso. It's like, you're going to learn to paint, you can learn all these talents. Anyway, so you think child genius is the same, it's genetically gifted. There's a guy called Laszlo Polgar, and this is one of the things that I love. And a number of years ago, he's had this idea. It's like, can we raise a genius? Is there such a thing as child genius, or can we raise a genius? And so it's just before the internet, it's kind of went out. I said, hey, I've got this theory. Like, I want to find a wife who wants to raise some kids and see if we can turn them into geniuses. Anyway, find some wife from Middle East. Says, yes, I would like to be involved in this science experiment. And they have 3 girls, right? 3 girls. And he says, right, from a very early age, we're going to teach them maths, science, language, all of these things that they're kind of academic side. We're going to push it very early on them. And then later on, we're going to teach them chess. Okay. And chess apparently is something that you can quantify and measure very accurately in terms of world rankings and stuff like that, even from a very early age. And so these girls had access to best teaching, best training, with this idea that we're going to try and raise some geniuses. So he gives them amazing teachers. And here, again, Laszlo Polgar had written some books on chess and maths and stuff like this. So he was a very smart guy himself. Anyway, let's cut to the end of the story. What happened? Well, 3 daughters. The first one, Judith Polgar, not in age order, but she is acknowledged as the best female chess player to ever existed. One of the sisters, the other sister, second best female chess player to ever existed. And the third one only ever really represented Hungary at the Olympics at chess.
Oh my God.
This, again, so coming back to your point, a lot of people, they have this entitlement thing that I'll try it a couple of times, and if I'm not good at it, that means I'm probably good at something else, so I should go and do that. Whereas actually, it's persistence, and it's the 10,000 hours idea, is that we need to stick at something. And Seth Godin wrote a book called The Dip. I love Seth Godin for so many reasons. He says that the dip is this point where like it starts off nice and easy, right? Everything's good, and like going for a bike ride. I love riding; it's amazing. And then I'm going the same speed, and I don't like the cold, and now it's getting harder, and I want to do a race, but I'm not getting any further. And then I have a fall, and everything gets really horrible, and you end up in this dip where everything sucks. And that's the point where people quit. A lot of people, I don't like it. And what Seth Godin says is actually, what's on the other side of the dip? Is it something that's worth having? Like, is that where everything is? And so he says, don't avoid the dip. The dip is natural, right? The dip is something that everyone's going to come up with. It's don't quit in the dip, like go past the dip, or quit before the dip. Just don't even get to the dip. Like, there's no point. If you're not going to carry on, just don't do it. And I think that's what a lot of people face, is they get to that point where it's really hard. And it's going to be hard for everyone. Like in every journey of challenge and success and anything along those lines, there's going to be a point where this sucks. And I remember one conversation. This happened. It was at my mum's house. I was tired. It was the afternoon. It was like 5, 6 o'clock. I'd done a workout in the morning. I was on 2-a-days. And so I had to go back to the gym in the evening. And I was there at home, and my wife was there. My mum was probably cooking some food, which I wasn't going to be able to eat. And I was just sat on a chair, and I was exhausted. I couldn't move. I could barely speak. And my wife said to me, she said, "Why don't you just not go to the gym tonight?" And my wife has been very supportive. She doesn't quite understand it still. She thinks I'm a little bit mad. But, you know, that's a line you play with. And she said that. She said, "Why don't you just not go tonight?" And I looked at her, and I didn't have the energy to reply. And luckily, my brother was there, and he stepped in and said something probably profound, but I'll try and remember it. And he says something along the lines of, sometimes it's not about going to make yourself better. Sometimes it's about going so you don't go backwards.
Yeah.
Keeping a promise to yourself. And like that it was that mentality. I knew the workout that I did was going to be terrible. It doesn't matter how much pre-workout or anything. If you are that tired, it's not about maximizing performance. It's just about that commitment. And this is the one thing of competitions. When you step on stage, confidence comes from knowing you've kept all those commitments. And doubt comes from, hey, what if I'd done that? And it's nice to be able to step on stage and feel confident.
I get that. I can't remember the first 20 triathlons I did. Because I'm not a great swimmer either. I can get there. I'm not fast. And then I just make it up on the bike in the run. And I just don't like it. And there's so many times you're halfway through the swim and you're like going, what the heck am I doing here? Why am I here? I says, everybody's passing me. I don't even know what makes me think that I'm good enough to be in this water. You know what I mean? And you just like, but then my other head kicks in and goes, minus, you haven't quit a goddamn thing in your whole life. Why do you think you're going to quit now? And then it just keeps going. And then that's a nanosecond. Literally, it's a nanosecond. It's like this. But yeah, I get it. And so it's the same thing. Yesterday, it was 4 hours and 45 minutes on the bike. So hot. And then we started at 6. So here it is. It's going to be like 10:30. And it's 97 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And it was about 4 hours in. We had 10 miles left. And it was the longest 10 miles. But my buddy is more practical than me. And he's like, no, if it's getting hotter, just like anything else, you slow down so you're not exerting yourself. And you'll get there when you get there. And if you have to take a little extra time, that's fine. I'm the other way. It's like, no, I can't stand this. I'm being tortured. I'm out of here. And so I got there. I was changed. I had my running shoes on. I was getting ready to go. I had, you know what I mean? Everything done. And he's just pulling up. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, man. I just had to go. He goes, don't be sorry. I understand. But yeah, it's an opposite relation. But yeah. So yeah, I absolutely get it at that time. And then you're just like, and then today. So now it's like, all right, I just like yesterday just absolutely was dead. And get up this morning to know that I got another 2 hours on the bike, and then I got 4,000 meters in the open water. And I'm like, oh. But same thing. It's like, no, if I'm going to do this well, you've got to do those things whether you're tired or you're not. And right, do it like you love it, even if you hate it. And
I heard someone say it's like rule of thirds. Yeah, third of your workouts you're going to love, third you're going to hate, and third are going to be in the middle. Yeah, like you can't expect every workout to kill it. Just because be yourself and go do it.
And I said that to my buddy the other day. I had done a 2 hour and 30-minute run, and I'm like, it was the worst. It was hot. I had to walk, which I'm not a fan of walking when I'm on a run. And I had to walk. I had to do this, and he said he spit it right back in my face. He goes, yeah, a very wise coach once told me, but you got it done.
I hate it when I use your words against.
But it's amazing. So, you know what? We didn't talk about why you wrote the neuro-linguistic blueprint. So I know this was pre-COVID, and you had written this book. What was the motivation to write the book?
So there's two. The first book was Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or the Next Level Persuasion, which is my NLP book for salespeople. The second one is the Personal Transformation Blueprint. And
That's right.
I always wanted to write a goal setting book, and I've read a lot about the science of goal setting and how effective it is, and never wrote it. Oh, weird, right? So I probably still will write one day, but I think this is better. And I didn't set out to, I knew I set out for bodybuilding to learn more about myself and actually to use it as a teaching moment. And so as I went through it, I thought, okay, well, let's figure out what this looks like. How, when you set yourself a big challenge, what happens? And I literally documented the mentality stages of what happened for me going through it. And it was that. Then I was like, okay, well, does everybody go through this? Is this a thing? And turns out it is. So I thought, okay, well, how can I take my experience? How can I add some of the science to it? And then write it in a way that changes the way some people perceive it. So there's no unique messages, only unique messengers. And like you said, the imposter syndrome kicks in. Yeah, but Dan, why should you write a book on this? You've only just been doing this for 5 minutes. I've been studying this for years, and yeah, I still do this, like that kind of idea. But I wanted to write this book, and I thought, okay, my experiences that I've gone through and the different transformations that I've had to go through to create this transformation of me as a bodybuilder, these are other things that other people go through, whether it's in career or business or relationship or something along those lines. So I've interviewed some other people and looked at their experiences and say, okay, well, this is similar. And so it was how can I document the challenge that I've gone through from a mental perspective? There's literally no talk about fitness or bodybuilding in there, maybe a couple of stories, but it's not about that. It's about every time you challenge yourself to get bigger and better and do something like a life-changing challenge, you're going to go through a standard set of responses mentally that you've got to overcome. And if you resist them and say this shouldn't happen, then you're going to fall short. But if you embrace them and say, okay, well, this sucks, let's go anyway, then you'll be okay. And I guess the main idea is there's kind of 3 main ideas in the book. Which first one is you got to level up your expectations. You got to expect more. We all get stuck. I guess this one came from sales. Is the biggest competitor in any sales organization. Like, it doesn't matter who you're selling for or what you're selling. The biggest competitor is status quo. Is people just staying the same and doing the exact same thing. And that's the same in our lives, right? We do the same thing every day. We have the same routine, get up at the same time, do the same thing. And for most people, if they look at their lives, they rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. They'll say, well, 6, 7. And that's pretty meh. Like, if you look at the NPS, like if you do a business, it's like 1 to 10. They say that up until 6, they're a detractor. You're not going to say anything good about a business. You're probably going to talk about rubbish about it. 7 or 8 is a meh. It's like, I'm not going to say anything good, but not going to say anything bad. And 9 or 10, they call promoters, right? This is their NPS or Net Promoter Score. So imagine this. Imagine if you're like a 6 or 7. At worst, you're probably going to talk rubbish about you, like, oh, my life sucks, it's not very good. And at best, you're like, meh, it's okay. Imagine like going through life like that. Imagine if your life was just, it's okay. People really try and challenge themselves to go for 10. But what could 10 look like? Or 9 or 10 or something that's just outside of our comfort zone or outside of our usual thing. For me, I was like, okay, well, I want to challenge myself from a fitness perspective. Or some people, it'll be, I want to write a book, or I want to make some art, or I want to start a band, or I want to start a business. I don't know what it is, but a lot of people, they don't ever get to that point because they use excuses. Oh, yeah, but not enough time, kids, responsibilities, people look at me weird, blah, all these kind of, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. You come up with an excuse. It's easy. And so the first day is, okay, well, let's choose something. Let's choose something. And again, I'm going to come back to Seth Godin. I should probably send him some royalties for all of the quotes. There's a great quote. I think Jim Rohn said, what would you dare to do if you knew you could not fail? Every coach says this. I like Seth Godin's twist, which is, what would you dare to do if you knew you would fail, but you would do it anyway? That's the thing, right? That's the passion. That's something that is inside of you that you feel compelled to do. And so for me, fitness is one of those things. I'm going to do it regardless. So like that was okay. The second part, so once you set yourself the goal, is, like I said, immediately, if that goal is big enough, you're going to feel some form of imposter syndrome or fraud or doubt because it's a big gap. Like I've had, up until that point, I'd had 40-something years of experience saying, Dan, you're never going to get below 10% body fat. Like maybe once when you were a kid. But moving forward, it's not going to happen. And so we have all these doubts and insecurity. Oh, well, other people can do it. Maybe I can't do it. Maybe I can. Maybe I can't. And we've got to overcome that. We've got to overcome that mental gap. And you do it, like I said, through a bit of visualization. You do it just by showing up. Yeah, that's the big part. Is you, like, say, fake it until you make it, I think you mentioned. But it's just doing the things that those people will. Because I know if I do those workouts and I change my diet, that result is inevitable. It's going to happen. Now, how good I look is limited and stuff by genetics and some other factors. But, like, was it hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard? So people rarely get anywhere near their genetic capacity. So I figured I'll just work harder than everyone else and be all right. So doing the things until you feel like you are, like, actually living in alignment with that. It's Maxwell Maltz in Psycho Cybernetics talks about how we live in accordance with our identity, our self-image, how we see ourselves. So you've got to rewire that. And then the last part then is work rate. So again, we come back to this Expedia, Amazon Prime, immediacy culture, is we're not willing to trade something for something. And so we expect stuff. We're like, oh, I'm going to change from real milk to almond milk and I'll be ripped. Sorry, dude. It's going to take a little bit more than that. So we have to work hard. There's no escaping work hard, but then we have to work smart. People tend to try and do it the other way around, try and hack it. No, you don't know what you got to do and that kind of thing. But then we also got to realize that whatever we say yes to, we have to say no to something else. And so there's an element of sacrifice. When I talk about sacrifice, I like to make the joke, we're not talking about goats and virgins that we're throwing into volcanoes anymore. But we are talking about strategic sacrifice, which, like in chess, is, okay, well, if I give up this pawn, does it give me an advantage on the board? I don't play chess, but I know if I move that there and somebody moves there, then I can do that, and then it's cool, right? So I give up certain things in order to get other things. I give up sleeping until 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning so that I can get extra time here, and that actually pays off over here. So I make these aspects of sacrifice. I try and weigh things up. And the important thing to do that, and again, we come back to the psychology, is we are mentally wired to go for the short-term quick fix, like immediate satisfaction thing. We are mentally wired that way. It's a thing called temporal discounting. If it's going to come tomorrow versus today, I'll take the today thing. Forget that. And actually, in most cases, if we turn it around, that's probably the best decision. So that kind of mentality thing where we're weighing up our decisions, again, coming back to the decision-making master's degree, that's all kind of fits together. And so if we do those things, if we raise our expectation, if we understand that there's going to be a gap of mentality that we need to cross, and if we put some work in, I think we can pretty much achieve everything.
That is the perfect way to end this segment. I think that is absolutely I think it's Dan's advice, and that funneled through a higher power, is we can't be thinking like that anymore. We need to be thinking more that the amount of time that you spend is going to get you to the best way of success, whatever you do.
Yep.
So that is absolutely, it's crucial right now, especially in our Amazon environment right now, where I mean, we even got it out here. You might have it maybe not in Prague, probably more in England. I'm not sure. But I mean, there's even things I can get today. And it's nuts. But as far as things that we want for ourselves, the things that we need to work on, the new challenges that we've put ourselves through, it's a challenge for a reason. You're not going to make it through this challenge tomorrow. The idea is that you challenge yourself to get better, to be better, to hit that next level in your life so that you can then find another level and challenge yourself again.
Yeah.
So,
and that's it, right? We're constantly leveling up. And I love playing computer games. So I still do it, occasionally get the Xbox out. But I always play role-play games. Yeah. And there's this idea that you reach a certain level of experience and you level up, and now suddenly you get all these cool, wonderful weapons and skills. Actually, remember I was saying about my football buddies, and we all got old and we went into hibernation. One of them now I play Dungeons and Dragons with. That's our evolution. We went from football to climbing to Dungeons and Dragons. So we're always going to be competitive in some way, shape, or form. And now I'm right
there with you. We're just a couple of nerds. It's fine. So Dan's book is called Personal Transformation Blueprint.
Yep.
That's correct? Okay.
Yes.
So that you're going to be able to get that in Amazon. I will link that in the show notes. And I'm picking it up as well. And I feel bad that I didn't read it to start with. But that's his latest book. He has a couple other books. You said Neuro-Linguistic Persuasion.
next level persuasion.
Next level persuasion.
Yeah, for anybody in the sales space who is looking for some support and kind of ideas around how do we use persuasion and psychology to get people to do things. And the third one is in draft. So it's called Bulletproof Salesperson. So again, we're coming into this bulletproof space, which is this whole idea of mental toughness and application. So I don't know if you like the movie Matrix, but there's a great quote in it. It says, Neo says to Morpheus, he says, so what are you telling me? I can dodge bullets. He says, no, Neo. I'm telling you, when the time comes, you won't need to. And it's that idea that we're under a ton of pressure, but, we've got to have some skills that we can avoid bullets or at least take them a little bit more effectively.
And that's one of my favorite quotes, actually, in the original Daniel LaRusso version of The Karate Kid, where Ralph Macchio looks at Pat Morita and he says, so when you're a kid, you're getting a lot of fights, and he's like, no, and it says like, why? He says, why not? And he says, well, when we fought, it wasn't for points, it was for life. And I'm like, oh, but you knew karate. And he says, so? And it says, well, you knew karate, so you like to fight. And I says, is that what you think? He says, but that's why we do this. We know karate, so we train to fight. He says, that's really what you think? He says, why do we train? He goes, so we don't have to fight.
Nice.
Yeah, right there with you. It's a great thing. But that's the original one from 1984.
Yeah.
So not the Will Smith kids version.
Yeah, the Jaden Smith one.
Yeah. But it was great. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. Still one of my all-time favorite movies. So happy that they brought that back. Anyway, I gotta stop this. We could go on like this forever. Anyway, so think about that. Personal Transformation Blueprint. You'll find that on Amazon. I will have that link. Also, danstorey.com. It's got some great stuff in here where you can also learn about his speaking and training. He's got a personal one-on-one coaching thing. He's also got a mental toughness assessment, which I need to take. And since Dan's been going into more in this mental toughness space, which we might actually have to get you back on and just literally go about that, because I think that's not that we didn't cover it a little bit here, but I think it's definitely something that we all need to be learning. And yeah, so check that all out. I'll have everything in the show notes. And I think as far as social media, you're primarily a LinkedIn guy, right?
Mostly on LinkedIn, just from the business space. I do the occasional post on Instagram, and I will do more. So, but if people want to come and find me on LinkedIn, then I tend to post stuff about psychology, decision-making, mental toughness, and imposter syndrome, and bashing the status quo bias as much as we possibly can.
Excellent. Yeah, we need that. So I'll have those links in the show notes for you as well. So Dan, listen, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I think you have brought a lot of value to the table, and I think that people will be able to learn a lot.
Thanks, Brad. I think, if we come back to it, I'll leave you with a quick lesson that one of my students had with me. It was just, she loved learning. She was like studying all this stuff, and she's, I'm going to go and do this other course. I said, okay, well, learning is great, and there's a massive dopamine hit, and we enjoy learning. And like I said, I'm a student for life, but there's levels of learning, right? And student is the first level. And I said to her, what's the next level? Like when you really know this stuff. And she had to think about it for a moment. And I think she said, practitioner. I was like, right, go and do this stuff. So if you are listening and you're still listening to us at this point, this is not about learning. This is about doing. Let this be the kick in the butt, the instigation, the kind of thing that tips you over the edge to go and do some stuff, because you've got it in you. Go and embrace the suck. Yeah. Find your own version of imposter syndrome. And hopefully this has been a good nudge in the right direction.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you for listening. And we will see you in the next one.